Mink. Hi, Frank.
Hi, Theresa.
Last week we spoke about the deposits that KWG Resources has stakes upon. This week I want to know a little more about the story behind Frank's Fault. Can you tell me a bit about that? That's up there with the historic Ring of Fire.
I'll do my best. Frank's Fault is it's like a slice through a piece of Texas toast, and then the top half that was sliced off and the bottom half got pulled apart, and but in a kind of a parallel way, but a little bit uphill, if you will. So the result is that the top part was left behind, and the bottom part came up and stretched out the toast into double length of the slice. This is our Mo Levine, our Vice President of Exploration and quite a brilliant geologist. His explanation for why what we found in the drill core as we were drilling Black Horse was the same as the stuff we saw when we were drilling Big Daddy, which was further to the northeast. So he's been able to prove to his satisfaction that the intrusion, which once was one piece, the one piece of bread, if you will, the Texas toast, standing upright in a maybe a bowl of bread pudding, was actually stretched out, sliced in half along the length, and then pulled apart to stretch out along this intrusion of 14 kilometers. So our view is that the Black Thor, the result is that the top half of that slice is sitting there in the north end, which is the biggest part of the deposit, Black Thor and Big Daddy, but in fact it's sliced off at the bottom. So when you look at the south end, where the other bottom of the slice of bread went, if you will, it has an opportunity to be much deeper. It's already thicker there, but it has an opportunity to be very, very deep and have a lot more time.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the industry. So the mining industry has weathered many ups and downs over the last years. Where do you see things headed in the next few years?
I think we're starting to see an end to this long, dark, cold winter that we've been in this industry. Many of our junior companies and the people that created them and financed them and ran them and traded their shares have disappeared over these last few years. But the way money has been organized to participate in this risk taking has changed. We hear the phrase private equity. All of a sudden we're being visited by people who we've known for years in the industry, who have come in the way of private equity or other pools of capital that are looking to participate in this industry. Smart money senses that the price isn't going to get any cheaper. The opportunities are not going to get any less costly, and now is a very good time to put some of these things together. So I think over the course of the summer and for the rest of the year, we'll see some M&A, mergers and acquisition work being done, and we'll see some money coming back into the industry. And when I say industry, I'm talking about something short of operating mines. This is the junior exploration development part of the industry that I'm speaking of. I think we'll see money come back into that, and in a perhaps more grown-up way than it's been done in the past. And what I mean by that is people who have the wherewithal and the nerves to actually invest the substantial amounts of capital that it takes to put good assets together with good management, pay them appropriately, and make those assets worth what they can be. Because the money has taken a view that the longer-term future of a commodity or a basket of commodities, that they've taken the view, they're optimistic about that. They've taken a view that they're going to go up in value. So that's where I'm at. As of only a few days ago, actually, I kind of sensed a turn coming. People have been talking about it, but now I've had direct participation and direct involvement in some of these things. So I think it's turning.
Good, I appreciate that insight. That is a massive development here with the Ring of Fire, and I want to know exactly what is the plan there, and how will the railroad best be utilized once it's in place?
Sure. It's actually the important part of the algorithm. The chromite deposits of the Ring of Fire are 330 kilometers in the middle of nowhere, and the stuff is very, very heavy, and to bring it to market, there's a possibility it can be done by a slurry pipeline, but the practical way is to do it by railroad. Generally, the history of North America is that railroads were in competition with business that they served. So you had the Vanderbilt fortune built out of taking profits out of the businesses that they served, and I think it's very, very important in this case, and this is what I've been trying to explain to the Ontario Northland Railroad and the Ontario government, is that the railroad that gets built is there to serve the mine and must operate as a utility. And it's not there to profit from the opportunity represented by the mineral discoveries. It's there to serve that. And so that suggests to me that the Ontario Northland Railroad, and it would be the ideal way to, would be the ideal operator owner of that railroad. I don't think, they may participate in the management and operation of it, but I don't think we're going to be able to persuade the Ontario government to make them the owner of this new railroad. So we're talking to the First Nations about how to do this together with them. We need their consent because the railroad will cross their traditional lands. If that's forthcoming, it would only be on the basis that they do make some money somehow, and that then led us to conclude that they simply have to be partners in the mining operation, and that way we get social license from them to have this railroad operate at cost in their traditional territories.
What is going on between KWG Resources and China at the present day?
I think I'm delighted you asked that question. There's a lot going on, and we are a little piece of a canvas. I think at this point in the history of nations, we're about to see a relationship created between Canada and China, Canada under Justin Trudeau and China under its current leadership, which will change the way things have happened for a better way. We perhaps will have a free trade agreement. We will do business together in a much more strategic fashion. And I think if you understand a little bit of the history of China, like Japan, it is short of a lot of industrial commodities, yet it consumes an enormous amount of them because they're not short of labor, and they manufacture all kinds of stuff. So Canada, of course, is wealthy in commodities. In fact, we're wealthy having explored only about 5% of the country. There's still 95% of Canada that we don't know what's under the ground there yet. And the Ring of Fire attracted the attention of China because it's the nickel in part, but I think far more importantly, was the chromite. You need chromite to make stainless steel. There's lots of iron, which is the 80% of what makes stainless steel, but the chromite in the world is only rare. It occurs in a few places: South Africa, Kazakhstan, Albania, Turkey, but the main ones are in South Africa. I think in the fullness of time you'll see this China Rail initiative with KWG come to fruition. It will be what creates mining in the Ring of Fire for perhaps a century, maybe 2 centuries, where we're going to use the energy and the chromite we have here and make money putting those two together and sending them to China.
So I want to know, will the stainless steel be produced in Canada, or will it be shipped to other places in the world to be produced, or a bit of both?
All of those things. So what Canada has the advantage in suddenly is the chromite, the discovery of the chrome. So and at the same time, the recognition that North America has almost endless supplies of natural gas. A lot of this, we always had lots of natural gas in the oil fields. So we've got a huge advantage. We have energy and energy that we can't use, and so the cost is very low and likely to remain quite low for a very long time. The combination of the chrome and the energy makes the ferrochrome, and we've, as you know, I think we've talked in the past about the method that these two things happening at the same time here give us an opportunity to use direct reduction as the method of refining ferrochrome. So what we will make is a metallic product that has lots of chrome in it and a little bit of iron. You need the iron in order to precipitate the melting of the chrome and the remelting of the chrome. But then to make stainless steel products out of that, you add a whole bunch of iron and sometimes some nickel, sometimes some manganese. And then you do something with that bath. You either roll it into sheets or you extrude it into castings, beams and bars, and or big globs of it, blooms and billets as they're called. You would typically do that where you're going to use the finished product to manufacture something. That's so that you don't spend a lot of money and take a lot of the profit out of the opportunity in shipping things back and forth around the globe. What envision doing is making a partly manufactured stainless steel, actually a stainless steel casting or billet, which then gets shipped to the melt shops of China, Japan, Korea, Indonesia, India, and gets remelted there, and for the purpose of adding to it the vast quantities of iron that come there from Australia. And so we're not shipping the iron here or mining the iron here at a higher cost, to make the stainless steel here. We're getting the most value we can out of it by using what we have here and combining the two, and then shipping that partly manufactured product to where it's going to be finished with sources of material from other places.
Great. Hi. Frank, recently you sent a letter to your shareholders about some upcoming business at the annual meeting. What's that all about?
We're doing this to try and diffuse that issue. This is the second time we've asked the shareholders to approve a new idea in the penny stock market. And the idea is as simple as, I've got a bowl of dimes here, as simple as understanding the difference between a dime and a $10 bill. What is happening in the markets is everything is there's no interest, so everything is trading at very low prices. But when they trade at very low prices, like 2 or 3 cents, the movement, the market rules require that they go up or down by half a penny. That is on a 3 cent stock or a 2 cent stock, like a 20% change in price. If the owners of a 3 cent stock or a 10 cent stock had a chance to consolidate that into a $10 bill, they could actually trade it in pennies as opposed to 20%.
Now, Frank, one more thing. What if I want the dimes back?
Anytime you want to turn your $10 bill back into a bowl of dimes, you're able to do that. And you can go back and forth as much as you want, anytime you want. That's what we're creating is a single voting share. We're leaving alone the single voting share and creating a multiple voting share, which is marginable. And with that existence of trading in the multiple voting share, we'll see a stop in this half-cent gap all the time, the 2.5, 3 cents, 3.5 cent market. It'll go to a $9.99, $10, $10.05, $10.10. It'll go to that kind of market. So our idea is to create what I call a roll-up share of 300 of our existing shares. Now, the problem is that what traditionally has been done is when a company gets a lot of shares out, it still has to sell shares to raise money. Most of junior companies have no income to pay their bills, and then they're issuing more and more shares. And what historically has happened is they periodically do what's called a rollback or consolidate their shares. They will turn every 10 or 20 shares into one, and then 9 times out of 10, those new shares, which are formerly 20 or 10 shares, go down to the same old price that the previous number of shares. In the case of KWG, where we have really a historic world-class asset that appears to have an opportunity to be developed with interest from China and financial markets, to really be worth much more than a much higher market value than it is today. I think preserving the number of shares that we have outstanding is an important thing to do rather than roll it back. Last year, the shareholders gave us authority to do up to a 10-for-1 consolidation. We were able not to use that authority, so we still have the same number of shares outstanding that we have had for many, many years. The idea is very simple. Each of these dimes have one vote. When you put them together, there's what is that? That's 100 votes. And all we're doing is creating a second class of shares, which will also be listed and for trading on the Canadian Securities Exchange, where if you want the $10 bill, you can roll up your dimes, 100 of them, and get the $10 bill. Now, you still have all the votes that you had, the 1 vote here or the 100 votes there. But what's different is, with this, you can go to your broker and he'll give you another one of these. He'll let you borrow money from him to go and buy more stock. With these, you can't do that. And that's the whole story.
Broadcasting internationally this week from beautiful Costa Rica. Here to discuss Ontario's Ring of Fire with me, Hall Stewart, geologist, GIS professional, metals and mining expert, map maker, and explorer. Welcome, Hall.
Hi, Theresa. Hall here, and I'm happy to answer your questions about the Ring of Fire deposits in Northern Ontario.
Hall, my first question for you is, how does this stuff form deep within the Earth's crust?
These deposits are within a deposit class that we call layered mafic intrusions. And these are formed very, very deep within the crust, kilometers below the surface. So areas like northern Canada that are deeply eroded and have had glaciation continue to scrape away upper layers of rock are great places to look for layered mafic intrusions. And the way that the chromite and platinum group metals form in these things is, think of a huge, huge chamber full of, many, many square or cubic city blocks or many cubic kilometers. And within this magma chamber is hot liquid magma. And when the magma begins to crystallize, some of the crystals, like chromite, are heavier than the rest of the magma, and they fall down like rain through this hot liquid magma chamber and accumulate on the bottom. So that's how the deposits form, by concentration of these minerals in the bottom of the magma chamber.
With respect to the Ring of Fire, how do you drill into a deposit like chromite?
They're drilled off just like any other of the mineral deposits that we're pursuing these days. They're drilled by diamond drilling, and they have to be drilled at a certain drill density in order to prove continuity and grade. And that's what the 43101 and the Canadian Institute CIM standards are all about.
What's your favorite part about being a geologist?
My favorite part about being a geologist is definitely colored pencils, because as a geologist I get to color and draw and make maps and models that are the same kind of work that I've been doing since kindergarten. And I just love modeling the natural world. Thanks, Theresa.
Thanks for joining me this week on the Mining Minute, broadcasting from beautiful Costa Rica. And this week I want to ask you a little bit about the history at the Ring of Fire.
Ooh. It was actually the discovery of diamonds in Canada in 1992-93 by Chuck Fipke up in the Northwest Territories that started the modern history of the Ring of Fire. That discovery of Fipke's in the Northwest Territories precipitated quite a rush into the exploration, a lot of enthusiasm for exploration for diamonds in Canada. One of the areas that had been known since the 1940s and 50s was the James Bay lowlands. Up and down and crossing the Attawapiskat River, there is what's called a cratonic suture, in other words, a very deep crack in the crust of the Canadian Shield, which runs from the Arctic Circle down to New York, and it kind of passes through, crosses the Attawapiskat River about 100 miles or so 100 kilometers or so from the coast of James Bay. So this area got some attention. A couple of fellows who had known each other collaborated in creating a joint venture. This was Pierre Gauthier, who was the promoter and CEO of my predecessor of KWG, and Neil Novak, who Neil Novak in partnership with Gord Lever. Gord Lever was the CEO of a company called Spider Resources. And the two of them created this joint venture. KWG under Pierre Gauthier raised quite a lot of money, many millions. And the joint venture was for the purpose of spending that money by doing airborne magnetic surveys to find diamond targets in this area, in this cratonic suture, or the area of it. And so Spider did the work and staked the claims, and KWG did the financing. And the eastern part of Canada was found and then put into production by De Beers over a many year process. In that area, that original database created in 1993-94 with that investment of that joint venture was then used by De Beers in 2001 to look for another diamond target a little bit further west in what is now the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire had actually been identified as in a mag survey, airborne magnetic survey done by the Canadian government in about 1957. As a potential mineralized feature. The crescent of these rocks was visible from that original survey. So with the more current survey conducted in '94, De Beers then did some analytics and found what they thought was a very handsome target with high potential for diamonds, drilled that in the winter of 2001 and discovered not diamonds but copper and zinc. The so-called McFold's number 1 discovery, and that then brought a lot of attention to the area, renewed attention to the area, now not for diamonds, but for the potential for other minerals, copper, zinc, what we call VMS, volcanogenic massive sulfide. Some of the usual suspects, the guys just in the vanguard of the exploration, including Spider and KWG and Free West and Fan Camp and Noront, all well-known companies with colorful leadership. And long story short, in the money was raised, enthusiasm was generated, investor enthusiasm, and in the winter of 2007. We finally hit the big one, hit the home run. Noront made a discovery of very valuable nickel and PGM nickel, what we call magmatic massive sulfide deposit, and that then led to the subsequent discovery or identification of the chromite discoveries in subsequent drilling seasons. These all occur in the winter of the year because you can walk on water at that time of year. So there's a lot of it up there.
Different pieces of the puzzle happening here with the federal and provincial governments, KWG Resources, and the Aboriginal community. What sort of claims do the Aboriginal community have upon the railway being built in this day?
This day is no different from 1905 when we first made the deal with them. The deal that they understood and that the treaty actually says is that they could continue to use their traditional lands for their traditional lifestyle of hunting and fishing and gathering forever. And should we find something, we would share that. In that context, it said that that we could come and go across those lands as well, and that and we would explore for mineral deposits. But having found something, the product of the land would be shared with them. So over the last decades, but certainly last many years, there have been a number of decisions made by the courts in Canada, the appellate courts and the Supreme Court of Canada, to confirm that this is very real. And in fact, in the Constitution Act of 1982, the whole concept was put in of Aboriginal rights were protected under Section 35. So we have to bring them into the deal, and we're looking at how to do that in a way that makes sense to the people that we have to raise money from to build this project, but at the same time make sense under the law of Canada, really. So it's I think we'll get there. One famous company in a leading position in Canada is Northland Power, and they've done a number of partnerships with First Nations across the country where they co-generate power either with water or wind, or and they've ended up with a 50-50 deal after the capital gets paid back. So I think that's probably the right model. If it was good enough for Jim Temerty, it should be good enough for the rest of us.
Mining Minute, I'm your host, Theresa Longo, with my special guest co-host, Ashley. Last week we told you about the essential history of the Ring of Fire. This week we're in Northern Ontario.
And we're here to tell you 5 interesting facts about Northern Ontario's Ring of Fire.
Ontario's Ring of Fire is said to have more than $60 billion worth of mineral resources. Northern Ontario's Ring of Fire has been called the equivalent to Alberta's oil sands.
Tony Clement said the Ring of Fire will bring 100 years of mining activity, spinning off jobs for generations.
I got 5 12,000 BTU stainless steel tube burners under the hood here. You know what else makes stainless steel? Chromite.
First Nations is interested in sharing in the resources of Ontario's Ring of Fire and also in the legacy impact of its infrastructure.
Thanks for joining us in this week's episode of the Mining Minute. Join us next week when we'll talk more about Ontario's Ring of Fire.
In episode 24, we asked the readers to send in their questions following a very controversial and widely covered episode number 23. Well, Adam sent me a great question. Why do I do this for KWG and not any other players in the game? And what do I get out of doing this series? Great question, Adam. Let me give you a little bit of background. For many years, I worked for an international news media organization which reported on mining and other sectors. After that, I built a considerable number of contacts in mining, and I started working at the PDAC, which is the annual Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada's annual trade show in March. I was working for a silver company called Commonwealth Silver, and I was impressing everybody at the show with not only my knowledge of the story, but my ability to sell the story. I made deals on the floor, and as many of my colleagues will attest to, I even managed to raise $100,000 for the company one year. In the final years at PDAC with Commonwealth Silver, Bruce and Frank noticed that I was getting considerable, well-respected attention on the show floor. Not only that, I was making everyone take a second look at the company. Frank and Bruce asked me if this year I would lend my name and time to helping promote for KWG Resources during PDAC. I said yes, I did. I then became a shareholder of KWG Resources, and the rest is history. Now I'm producing these mining minutes as my own personal pilot project under the wing of KWG Resources. Contrary to what some have speculated online, I am not paid per episode. And this is my series for everyone to enjoy. And what do I get out of hosting the Mining Minute series? A little bit of pride in knowing that this series might be a catalyst in getting the story out even more. Thanks for joining me on episode 25 of the Mining Minute. Thanks, Adam, for your incredible question. More episodes this week. I'm going to be talking to Frank tomorrow about debut diamonds news, as well as recent share structure news. If you like the way I've been running the Mining Minute series, and you'd like me to create some type of media minute for your company, just send me